This is Flarum. Flarum is a lightweight, super fast forum software that you can self-host in Docker. And in this video, I want to show you how to do exactly that. But first, a quick message from today's video sponsor. Yourcdkey.com is a great place to get Windows 10 keys at incredibly low prices. So here we are on the Microsoft Windows 10 Pro page, and right here you can see the current price is $20.05. But if you use the coupon code that's in the description down below, you'll get it even cheaper. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in here and click apply. And now our new total for Windows 10 Pro is about $15. Now I have the option to go ahead and view the keys right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Then I'll click on get the key. And then I'm going to come over here, and right there you can change the product key. So go ahead and click on that. I'm going to go ahead and change the product key right here. So I've entered my key and I'll click next. Then I'll click on activate. And here we can see that Windows is activated. Next, what we want to do is go ahead and validate the key installation. And right there, you can see that Windows 10 Professional Edition is permanently activated. So head on over to yourcdkey.com to get your next Windows 10 Pro key at ridiculously low prices. Now, this is my Portainer instance where I'm hosting Flarum at the moment. And if we take a look here, you can kind of see this is what it will look like as we're going through the setup process. Once we've clicked on deploy the stack, this is what we will eventually see. But I did notice something kind of interesting as I was going through this, and I do want to point it out before we get started here. And that is, if I actually come over here and click on view the timestamps and give this a second to refresh, we can see that I started this process originally at 10 after the hour, and then I let it sit for a few minutes and it was still setting folder permissions, and I was like, well, maybe it got stuck. So I restarted the container about 3 minutes later, give or take, and then it actually took a full 13 minutes to set all of the folder permissions. Now, this could have just been a one-off for me. I did have this installed on a different piece of hardware, and it didn't take this long. But when I set it up this morning to do this video, it did take an exorbitant amount of time for it to actually set all of the permissions that it needed. Now, once it did that, everything ran fine, everything is good to go, but it's just something to be aware of that setting the folder permissions may take a while, and if it does, just do like I did and go take a shower. And hopefully when you get back, it will be set up and ready to go at that point. But I just wanted to point out before we actually get into the setup process that the setting up those folder permissions may take 10 or 15 minutes for some reason. Now, beyond that, again, everything works without issue. Once everything is up and running, whether you're doing it locally or on a domain name, you can go to the appropriate URL for your Flarum instance, and then you should see something that looks like this. Of course, these are just some random topics that I threw in there with some lorem ipsum text for the sake of just filling in some dummy text. So here we can see it was published 30 minutes ago. We can see the timeline. I actually really dig this timeline thing that they've done over here on the right-hand side. If I was logged in, I would be able to create a reply. However, I'm not logged in. So when I click write a reply, it asks me to do exactly that. So if we come back over to here, again, we've got additional topics of discussion. We can sort by all discussions or tags. We can look at general or other. Of course, those tags are also down here right below where it says tags there. So you got a couple of different ways to view or to get to different tags if you wanted to do that. We can go to sign up, or again, like it says right there, if you already have an account, you can click log in. So I'm going to use the admin account that I created during the setup process when I was creating the Docker Compose and flarum.env files. So I use dbtech and password like so. Give this just a second. And we'll go ahead and close that out. And then, of course, from here, now I can come in here and I can adding a reply. And Control-Enter works. I really appreciate that Control-Enter works to submit. So then you've got your reply. You can see how many posts there are. You can take a look at flag posts and notifications up here. Now your users will probably not see flagged posts if they're not logged in as a moderator or admin, but as a moderator or admin, you will probably see those flagged posts up there. Next, we can take a look up here at the top right. We can go to our profile. We can modify our profile however we want to do that by going to settings. We can get notifications. We can change our password or our email. You can automatically discussions that you reply to, or you can allow other users to see you when you're online, are all some of the different things that you can change here. Under controls, you can click edit. You can change your username. You can, if you are of the right privilege, you can adjust your permissions here. Or if you are an admin, you can go to somebody's profile and modify it from there as well. If we come up to the top right again, we can actually go to administration next. And this will bring up a whole new thing here where we can take a look at this is our basic dashboard. It gives us an idea of what version of Flarum we're running, what version of PHP we're running, what version of MySQL we're running. If we click on tools, we can clear our cache. That may fix some issues that you might have in the future. If anything ever changes or whatever, click clear cache. It's usually your online issues are usually DNS or cache. That's almost the solution to everything on the internet for some reason. Under that, over here on the left side, we've got basics where you can change, test forum to db tech, forum description, demo for db tech video. Homepage, you can say have it be all discussions or tags, so you can change up that homepage layout depending on what you want there. The welcome banner, we can change that as well. In fact, if we come over here to test, right up here at the top it says, welcome to Flarum, enjoy your new forum. That is this little section right here. Below that, we've got a slug driver that we can change if we want to do that. I'm going to go ahead and click on save right there. And then I'm going to come back to the homepage and refresh. And here we can see that now it says DB Tech Forum as I changed it just now. Below that, we've got email. And in here, we can say who our email should come from. We can choose how we want our email to be handled, whether it's through PHP Mailgun, log, or SMTP. Probably SMTP is the way to go here. I'm a big fan of having just a dedicated Gmail account set up for all of my notifications for this kind of thing. So it's something you might want to consider here as well. I'm not a big fan of self-hosting email. There's just too many security things that can go wrong. So I'm a big fan of using a third-party system for email. It just takes all of the hassle out of hosting, in my opinion. So below that, we've got permissions. Here you can, for each of the different permissions under read, create, participate, moderate, you can decide who gets what permissions, or you can restrict by tag. If you got a specific tag for like a post tag that only certain people should have access to, you can do things like that in here. You can add new groups up here at the top. By default, we've got admins and mods. You could have all kinds of other things and set up individual permissions for those different groups if you wanted to do that. Under appearance, if we keep going here, we can change our two primary colors. Like it says here, choose two colors to theme your form with. The first will be used as a highlight color, while the second will be used to style background elements. Then right below that is my favorite thing in the whole world, and that is dark mode, and click save. And now my eyes aren't searing quite as much. Below that, we've got a colored header if we want to do that. There we go. We can upload logos, fave icons. We can edit the header. Let's say you wanted to have JavaScript in your header for whatever reason, whether it's tracking or whatever. You can put all of that right here. Click save, and then it will inject that into your header file and adjust your website accordingly. Same thing with the footer. You can do the exact same thing there. Put in whatever you need, adding HTML to the bottom of the page, and then of course custom CSS. If you wanted to overwrite the default styles of Flarum, you can do that right in here. Fill in what you want to change and then click save, and then reload the page. You should be good to go as far as that's concerned. And then below that, of course, we've got users. I love that by default, I didn't do this. They actually blurred that out for security reasons on their own. So well done on the Flarum team for that. Below that is actually where we get into extensions, basically different ways to extend the functionality of the forum software. And there are a bunch of these. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll just kind of skim through them and give you a gist of what's going on here. Approval, you can start discussions without approval, and you can decide who gets those permissions. Do you want to use BB code for writing things? You can turn that on and off up here. Same thing with approval. You can do that. Emojis, you can turn that on and off. Flags, likes, lock. Who do you want to have the power to lock discussions? Probably just admins and mods. Do you want to use Markdown? You can do that if you like. Mentions, nicknames, pusher, which I believe is for real-time notifications. Using pusher, statistics, sticky stuff, subscriptions, suspend, tags, and languages. So if you want to continue to extend the functionality of Flarum, there is actually a way to do that in Docker. And what we can do, we actually come back over here to their GitHub page. Right here, we can see that it says to install an extension, you're actually going to do this through the terminal in your Docker setup. So we're actually going to do this through Portainer, or we could do this through the command line as well if we wanted to. So what we're going to do, like it says up here, Flarum extensions list, we're just going to click that into a new window. And then here are a bunch of different extensions that we can use or that we can add to our setup if we want to do that. And some of these are super useful in my opinion, some of them not as much, but definitely worth a look if you want to do that. Let's go ahead and take a look, see if maybe we can find something here that might be useful. Maybe read time. Maybe read time is what we want to do here. So what we want to do is actually take a look at this right here. If we come back over and copy this, I'm just going to actually open up a notepad here and paste that in there so that we can see, Docker exec ti Flarum extension require, and then sum/extension. It's the sum/extension that we're looking at right here. This justoverclock/thread read time. We're going to come in here and put that in right there. Now, look, I haven't actually done this before, so this will be something that we're going to take a look at for ourselves for the first time together. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that out like so, and I'm just going to right-click and hit Enter. And just like that, it looks like it did it. So that was pretty slick, actually. That was thread read time. So let's refresh. Right there is read time. So now we can enable read time if we want to do that, and then come back over to here, refresh. Let's see if we get anything different. All discussions. Okay, I don't see that it actually did anything different. Oh, because there are no permissions. Okay. Anyway, that's just an example of how easy it is, though. Maybe that was just a bad example that I picked for that particular thing. I tell you what, let's do one more. Let's do one more. Let's see if we can find another one. Ooh, NES theme. That's fun. Sure, let's do an NES theme. So we're going to do, oops. Like so, we're going to come back over to here. Paste that in. Let's do this one more time and hit Enter. Okay, it's been updated, it's downloading, it's extracting, it's clearing the cache, and now we're back. So let's come back over to here. Here we got NES themes. Let's enable that. Ooh, let's see what happens. Did it do anything? Let's see. Did it? Oh, that's fun. So it actually changed our fonts and those sorts of things to give it an old school retro NES theme. So there's a demonstration of one of the extensions actually working. So very cool stuff there. So this is the GitHub page for the Docker image that we're going to use. Here we can see that it does have 11 contributors, and it looks like, unfortunately, this hasn't been updated in a while, but it still seems to work very, very well. If we scroll down a little bit further in the page, we can see that it does have multi-platform images for x86, x64, ARM-v6, ARM-v7, and ARM-64. So you should be able to host this on basically any hardware that you have available. So very thoughtful of them to do that. Below that, we can see that it is a lightweight and secure image, like we talked about before. It's based on Alpine Linux. It uses Nginx and PHP 8 in this instance. It uses the latest Flarum core. It uses a MySQL database driver, and it uses OP cache extension for caching. And below that, we've got some different volumes that it will need. And here below that, we've got the environmental variables available for your setup that you can use. And below that, even further, there are some additional required environmental variables for your first time installation. So just something to kind of keep in mind there. Below that, we've got a couple of things for installation. There are a couple of different ways. In fact, there's a few different ways that you can go about doing this. The first option is to just clone their GitHub repository and modify some files and deploy it. I'm not a fan of doing that in this particular case. So what I like to do is actually go down just a little bit further to this Docker Compose version here. Now, the thing to note about the Docker Compose version in this case is that for the Flarum service, you'll need to create a .env file on your Docker server where you will store all of the relevant information. We can actually see that right here under services, Flarum env_file. We can see where that is actually mounted right here. Of course, you can change where that's mounted. It doesn't have to be here. Just for the sake of this example, that is mounted in mnt docker flarum and then flarum.env. That's just where they've got their env file mounted. Put it where you need to put it for the sake of security or whatever. So let's actually take a quick look at that env file just real quick before we move on to the volumes and the ports and all of that kind of stuff. So if we scroll down a little bit, here we can see under step 3, it says run it. You will need to, like it says here, create this file or create the flarum.env file with all of this information in here from debug equals false. If you run into issues, you can change that to true. Of course, your forum URL, if you're just going to host this locally, you could put it on an IP address, or you could put it on a domain name if you wanted to do that as well. Of course, if you want to make this publicly available, a domain name is the way to go for that. Below that, we've got some database configuration. This is how the application, where the forum application will actually connect to the database application, or the database container, I guess you might want to call it that. So whatever information you put in this area right here, you will want to make sure that it matches the environmental variable information for the Maria database above in the docker compose.yml file. Below that, we've got your admin user credentials, as well as what you want your forum to be called on in the browsers. Whatever you want it to show up in your browser tab, you can go ahead and put that right here. So here we are. We've got our PowerShell up. This is just Windows PowerShell. I've been using it actually at your guys' request. I used PuTTY for a long time, and you guys finally convinced me to use PowerShell. I dig it. Thanks for the recommend. So here we are. We are sitting at my terminal here. What I want to do is, of course, get logged in to my server. So here we can see my flarum.env file, and it looks very, very similar to what we copied from right over here under step 3 of run it. Basically, I just copied this, pasted it over here, and then I made a few little changes, like the database password I changed, and the Flarum admin user password and admin email, I changed all of those to suit my needs. Of course, I encourage you to do the same thing. The database name and user and all of that you can change if you'd like, but just remember, if you change it here, you'll also want to change it in the docker compose.yml file that we're going to take a look at next. Once we've got all of this filled out the way we want it, we've got all of our little I's dotted and T's crossed and all that stuff, we're good to go. We can press Control-O and press Enter to save, and then Control-X to exit. And then we can do a nano docker compose.yml. And here we can see the docker compose file that I've created, or that I've pasted in here, rather. That's all I did, was I pasted it and then modified it. So I'm going to kind of scroll this out just a little bit here. So here we can see we've got a version 3 Docker Compose. Our first service is Flarum. We're using the mondedie. I apologize if I got that wrong. Flarum stable image. The container name will be Flarum. Next, we've got our env file, and right here we can see that I've got that mounted at home, Docker Flarum, Flarum env. For our volumes for assets, extensions, logs, and Nginx, those are all stored in individual separate folders under Home, Docker, and Flarum, and mapped to their pertinent places for the application itself. Of course, you can modify this location however you need to for your setup. Below that, the original port on here was 80, but I don't like to put things on port 80, so I moved it to the container port of 8888. So this originally, just so that there's no confusion, looked like that. However, I didn't want it to look like that, so I changed it, like I said, to 8888, like so. just so that it's on its own port. Below that, it depends on the Maria database that we're going to take a look at next. Again, we're using Maria database version 10.5. Apparently, there are issues with some of the newer versions that don't play well with some of the applications that we've looked at recently. I'm not sure why, but it's definitely one of those things, you know. Below that, we've got a container name of MariaDB. That's fine. And we've got some environmental variables for the MySQL root password, the database name, the MySQL user, and the MySQL password. Don't actually make your root password and your MySQL password the same thing. I just did that for convenience for me because I'm lazy. So we've got all of that, and then below that, of course, we've got our volume for where we want to mount our MySQL database, and I've got that in home, Docker Flarum DB, and then mounted to the corresponding space for the actual container here. Once we're happy with this, again, we can do Control-O and Enter and Control-X. Then at that point, once we've got our docker compose.yml file configured the way we want, as well as our flarum.env file configured the way we want that, then all we have to do is run docker compose up-d and press Enter. At that point, it will go through the process of downloading all of the images that it needs and configuring them and extracting them and going through its whole process. And then once it's done doing all of that, you can then come back over here to your Portainer. If you've been following along with this channel for any period of time, you've probably got Portainer installed. And if you do, you can come into here and take a look at the logs for your containers. In this case, if we take a look at the MariaDB, we can see that there's a bunch of stuff in here. And of course, this has been up for a while. But if we come back to the logs for our Flarum container here, this is where we had the issue earlier, where it took several minutes, about 13 minutes, to go ahead and set up those permissions for the folders so that it could do everything it needed to do to make the software run the way we want it to run. So guys, there is Flarum, and again, it may take 10 to 15 minutes for it to actually go through that first setup process, but once it's set up and ready to go, it's very, very easy to use, maintain, operate, those sorts of things. And hopefully this is something that you guys will find useful for your own setups, whether it's for your own communities or household stuff or whatever the case is. There's a ton of uses for forums. So again, hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you did, do me a favor, give the video a thumbs up. Really would help me out quite a bit. So as I mentioned in my last videos of last year, I did discontinue YouTube memberships for my own reasons, really. But if you want to continue to support the channel, you can head over to Patreon and become a patron there. You will get early access to content when it's available, which is at least a day ahead of when everybody else gets it. You'll also get project files when those are available for certain videos when I'm doing those things. So definitely head over and check that out if you're interested. Of course, you don't have to. You can always just continue to watch the videos here, or you can actually go over to Odyssey. I've got an Odyssey channel set up there as well if you wanted to view it somewhere other than YouTube. There are options on where you can support the channel, whether it's YouTube or Patreon or Odyssey or Bitcoin or. There's a ton of links in the description down below on different ways you can support the channel. I do want to give another shout out to my patrons, whether you're a new patron. I picked up a few of you guys in the last couple of weeks, and thank you guys so much, especially around the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, all of that. You guys decided to help me out, and I really do appreciate you guys just as much as the guys who have been around for a year or more, and everybody in between. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. I really do appreciate it. But I think, with all that being said, I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. So as always, thanks for your time. I always appreciate your support, and I'll talk to you in the next video.